The space station hung at the edge of a dim star system, its metal hull covered in scratches and burn marks from years of meteor storms. Inside, the corridors smelled of oil, burnt circuits, and recycled air. For most, it was just another pit stop in the galaxy's forgotten corners. But today, it held a surprise for one human mechanic. Jalen, a man in his late 20s, wiped his hands on a grease-stained cloth. His coveralls were dark from countless hours of fixing engines, repairing broken drones, and patching shuttles. He had no money, no fame, no fleet, just his hands and his mind. Today, he was expecting a simple delivery of spare parts. Instead, a small, flickering hologram appeared in front of him. The hologram formed into a figure he didn't recognize. The figure's voice was calm, almost solemn. Jalen Maris, you have been selected as the sole inheritor of the Eternity, the largest ship in the galaxy. All rights and access codes are granted to you immediately. Proceed to Orbit 12. The ship awaits. Jalen froze. He blinked, then laughed nervously. I must be dreaming, he said. But the hologram's calm stare remained. It didn't flicker. It didn't blink. It vanished. The station buzzed with activity around him, but no one paid him any attention. They didn't care about Jalen. They never did. He was just another human among the multitudes of traders, aliens, and pilots. But the message burned in his mind. The largest ship in the galaxy. A ship bigger than entire orbital cities, older than most of the space stations, and more powerful than any fleet he had ever seen. He didn't know why someone would leave it to him. He didn't even know how to fly a ship that size. But curiosity won over fear. He grabbed a small bag with tools and spare clothes, then ran toward the station's docking bay. The path to Orbit 12 took hours. The transport shuttle rattled as it passed through empty space, past dying stars and drifting asteroid fields. Jalen stared out of the window, heart pounding. The closer he got, the larger the ship appeared. At first, it was only a shadow, like a moving mountain in space. Then, its massive hull reflected starlight, a glittering armor of unknown alloys. Its shape was elegant yet terrifying, long, wide, and impossibly tall. When the shuttle docked, the docking bay doors slowly opened, revealing the Eternity in all its glory. Jalen's breath caught. The ship's hull was smooth, polished, and engraved with symbols that pulsed faintly with light. It hummed softly, almost like it was alive. He stepped off the shuttle, his hands trembling. Each step felt small against the enormity of the ship. The corridors were taller than skyscrapers, walls lined with glowing panels, and cables running like vines across the ceilings. Doors slid open automatically as he approached, as if the ship recognized him. This is insane, he whispered. The air smelled clean, metallic, and strangely comforting. He ran a hand over the nearest wall panel. The lights pulsed under his touch. A small hum echoed in his chest. The ship wasn't just a machine. It was aware. Jalen walked further, each step echoing in the massive hall. He passed by massive cargo holds, sleeping quarters larger than his entire apartment, and engines that looked capable of moving stars. Yet everything seemed dormant, waiting for him to act. He reached the bridge. From here, the stars stretched endlessly in every direction. The controls were unlike anything he had ever seen. Levers, panels, holographic displays, and strange alien symbols. He sat down in the captain's chair, hands hovering over the controls. His heart pounded. Then it happened. The ship responded. A low vibration passed through the floor, a whisper in his mind. Engineer, you are here. Jalen jumped back. He looked around. No one was there. I am the Eternity. I have waited for you, the voice said again, calm and patient. Jalen's eyes widened. The ship was speaking to him, alive, conscious, and aware of him. His hands shook as he touched one of the glowing panels. Images flashed maps of stars, data on planets he had never seen, records of battles long past. The ship had history, wisdom, and power, and now it wanted him. Jalen stumbled back. "You are enough," the ship replied. "Your mind, your hands, your heart. You are the one I need." The words echoed in his chest. Fear mixed with awe. He wanted to run, to hide, to escape this impossible responsibility. Yet something inside him, curiosity, pride, maybe destiny, pushed him forward. He explored the bridge, touching controls, testing systems. The ship responded, opening hidden compartments, activating lights, and moving massive consoles as if to make him comfortable. Jalen felt like a child in a palace built for gods. Yet the ship seemed patient, guiding him slowly, showing him that he was not alone. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, he couldn't tell. Time moved strangely inside the eternity. Jalen found the sleeping quarters, immense but empty, and the engine room, where pulsing lights showed the ship's immense power. Every system seemed alive, waiting for a human touch. By the time he returned to the bridge, the stars outside had shifted. Jalen leaned back in the captain's chair, exhausted but exhilarated. His hands were still trembling, but his mind raced with possibilities. Somewhere deep inside, he realized the galaxy had never expected someone like him to command something like this. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly why the eternity had chosen him. He looked out into space, alone with a ship larger than anything he had ever imagined. The journey ahead was unknown, dangerous, and terrifying. Yet, Jalen felt a spark of excitement. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was the engineer of the galaxy's largest ship, and his story had just begun. A faint hum echoed around the bridge, like the ship was sighing with contentment. "Welcome, engineer," it whispered. And for the first time, Jalen didn't feel small. Jalen could hardly sleep in the eternity. The ship's corridors seemed alive, humming softly, like it was breathing. Every creak, every pulse of light, made him feel small and important at the same time. He had stepped inside the galaxy's largest ship only yesterday, but already, it felt as if it had known him forever. "You know," he returned to the bridge, his hands still trembling slightly. Today, he told himself, he would understand more. He would touch the ship's heart, the engines, the control systems, the core. He didn't know how, but the eternity seemed to want him to try. "Where do I even start?" Jalen muttered, looking at the countless panels and glowing symbols. The ship's voice answered softly in his mind. "Begin with me. Learn me." Jalen swallowed hard. "Learn you?" he thought. "All right," he said aloud, unsure if the ship could hear him in words as well as thoughts. "Show me." He walked toward the engine room, a cathedral-like space larger than a city block. The engines were sleeping giants, dark and silent. Panels lined the walls, displaying data he couldn't fully understand. Alien symbols flashed with colors he had never seen before. Jalen's heart raced. He was just a mechanic, used to fixing small engines and shuttles. Yet here he was, standing before a system that could move entire planets. "Touch me," the ship whispered. Jalen hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, he placed his hands on a glowing panel. Immediately, warmth spread through his fingers, and images flashed in his mind. Star systems, energy flows, circuits moving like living veins. The ship responded to his touch, aligning systems, humming louder. It wanted him. Hours passed, though he couldn't tell how long. Jalen moved from panel to panel, testing engines, shields, and navigation controls. Each time he touched a system, the ship pulsed, as if it was learning him as much as he was learning it. By the end of the day, he could feel its rhythms, like a heartbeat under his hands. "I think I can do this," he whispered. The ship's voice was calm but firm. "You can. Your mind, your hands, your decisions, you are exactly what I need." The first real challenge came unexpectedly. A sensor alarm flashed on a panel, alerting him to an approaching ship. Jalen froze. He had not expected anyone or anything to be near. "Who is it?" he asked. "Unknown fleet," the Eternity replied. "They may wish to test me. Or you." Jalen swallowed. His hands shook as he reached for controls. The ship seemed to sense his fear. "Do not fear. I will guide you. Trust yourself." Jalen felt a swell of pride. For the first time, he understood that his years of repairing small engines and shuttles had prepared him for this. Every problem he had solved, every quick decision he had made under pressure, it all mattered. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy. And now, he was proof of what they could do. He spent the next few hours running simulations, learning navigation controls, and practicing energy management. The ship responded with patience, gently correcting mistakes, showing him shortcuts, and teaching him strategies. By the end of the day, Jalen felt a spark of confidence. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was an engineer capable of commanding the galaxy's largest ship. But the peace didn't last. Just as he was about to rest, a sharp alert flashed across the bridge. Another ship, or perhaps several, had appeared, moving with stealth and precision. The Eternity hummed urgently. "They are testing you again," it said. "Prepare to act. Trust yourself, and trust me." Jalen took a deep breath. His hands were still trembling slightly, but his mind was clearer than ever. He had faced the first real challenge, and survived. Now he understood the truth. The Eternity was more than a ship. It was a partner, a teacher, and a guardian. And together, they could face whatever the galaxy threw at them. He smiled for the first time since he had received the inheritance. The journey ahead would be dangerous. Yes, but thrilling. And he would not face it alone. The hum of the Eternity seemed to echo his excitement, a reminder that he was no longer just a small mechanic in a forgotten corner of space. He was the engineer of the greatest ship the galaxy had ever known. As the new ships drew closer on the sensors, Jalen tightened his grip on the controls, feeling the Eternity beneath him like a giant ready to awaken. The galaxy had underestimated him, but together, he and the ship would prove that humans were never to be overlooked. Jalen gripped the controls of the Eternity, his knuckles white. The stars streaked past as the ship moved with unexpected speed, dwarfing every vessel in the nearby system. The enemy ships were closing in sleek, armed, and aggressive. They were faster, but the Eternity was smarter. Jalen's mind raced as he realized something remarkable. The ship wasn't just obeying him. It was thinking with him. Twist the lateral thrusters. Increase shield modulation on the starboard side. The ship's gentle voice whispered. Its tone was calm, almost soothing, though the danger outside was very real. Jalen followed its guidance, and he felt the giant vessel respond as if it had muscles under its hull. The shields flared, energy flowing like liquid light across the ship's sides. The enemy fired. Lasers sliced through space, exploding in brilliant bursts. Jalen's heart pounded. He ducked instinctively as the nearest blast hit close to the Eternity, shaking the bridge. Sparks flew from a console, and his stomach twisted with fear. He had never faced a real battle before, let alone commanded a ship capable of leveling entire planets. "Stay calm. Trust yourself. Trust me," the ship whispered. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. Then, like a memory guiding his hands, he began manipulating the controls, rerouting power, adjusting shields, and using the ship's enormous size to create gravitational waves that threw the smaller enemy ships off course. One by one, the attackers missed. Jalen couldn't believe what he was doing, but the eternity moved like an extension of his thoughts. Hours or maybe minutes passed in what felt like seconds. Jalen was exhausted, but the battle was far from over. The enemy had numbers, coordination, and relentless energy. Jalen realized that brute strength alone wouldn't win this fight. He would have to think like a human, a strategist, an improviser, someone unpredictable. He tapped a panel, activating the ship's cloaking field. The massive vessel shimmered and nearly disappeared from sensors. The enemies, confused, began firing blindly at empty space. Jalen felt a thrill. This was why the Eternity needed him. Its power alone wasn't enough. It required his creativity, his intuition, his humanity. He guided the ship into an asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks that could crush lesser vessels instantly. The enemy followed, but their sleek designs weren't built for unpredictability. Jalen and the Eternity danced through the field, dodging attacks and using floating debris to block fire. Every move was a risk, but it worked. By the time they emerged, 2 enemy ships had collided with asteroids, destroyed by their own miscalculations. Jalen laughed a short, shocked laugh. He felt alive in a way he never had before. The Eternity hummed in response, almost like it was laughing too. "We're just getting started," it whispered. But the real test came soon. One massive cruiser, larger than all the others combined, appeared on the edge of the field. Its weapons glowed ominously, capable of piercing any shield. Jalen's stomach turned. How do we fight that?" he whispered. "We do not fight like them. We do not rely on force. We rely on ingenuity," the ship replied. Jalen thought quickly. He scanned the asteroid field again. Then, an idea sparked. "We'll use the asteroids. We'll make them fight their own weapons." The plan was risky. He maneuvered the Eternity in a wide arc, drawing the enemy cruiser into the densest part of the field. Using precise bursts of thrusters, he shifted the asteroid's paths just enough that incoming fire ricocheted off rocks, some hitting the cruiser itself. The ship groaned under the strain, but it trusted him. Jalen adjusted energy flows, fine-tuning shields to absorb the inevitable hits. The cruiser faltered, its massive weapons destroyed by its own fire, and Jalen felt a surge of exhilaration. The Eternity responded with a pulse of energy that disabled the remaining enemy ship's engines. He had done it. Against impossible odds, the human and the living ship had outsmarted a fleet far superior in raw power. After the battle, Jalen leaned back in the captain's chair, sweat dripping from his forehead. His hands were raw from constant adjustments, and his muscles ached from tension. Yet, he had never felt more alive. The Eternity hummed, softly, almost proudly, as if approving his work. "You have learned quickly," the ship said. "Few humans could have done this. You are more capable than even I expected." Jalen smiled, exhaustion mixing with pride. "We make a good team," he said. It wasn't arrogance, just a recognition of the bond forming between him and the massive vessel. That night, after repairing minor damage and running diagnostics, he wandered the endless corridors of the ship. He explored rooms that seemed designed for alien species he could not recognize, labs filled with strange instruments, living quarters of impossible size, archives with data from long-extinct civilizations. Each discovery was fascinating, but it also reminded him that he had only scratched the surface of what the Eternity could do. He returned to the bridge and gazed at the stars. The galaxy felt suddenly smaller yet infinitely more dangerous. Rival factions were watching. Word of the Eternity and its human engineer would spread, and others would try to claim it. But Jalen wasn't afraid anymore. The trials of this day had taught him that the ship was more than metal. It was alive, aware, and willing to trust him. And in turn, he had learned to trust himself. A small ping on the control panel alerted him to a new message. It was short, almost like a warning. The galaxy will notice. They will come. Prepare. Jalen's heart skipped. The warning was clear. What he had faced today was only the beginning. The universe would not let a human command the greatest ship without testing him further. But he didn't falter. He touched the control panel, feeling the familiar hum beneath his fingers. "We can handle it," he whispered. And for the first time, he felt ready for the challenges ahead. As he looked out into the endless stars, he realized something remarkable. The eternity had chosen a human because humans think differently. Humans improvise, adapt, and survive against odds that would destroy others. And together, human and ship, they could face any threat, even fleets that dwarfed the imagination. Jalen's hands were no longer trembling the way they had the first day. They were steady now, guided by knowledge, intuition, and the trust of the living giant beneath him. The galaxy might underestimate humans, but Jalen knew something even the strongest aliens might never expect. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and daring, and the eternity was proof of that. Tonight, the stars would shine on a human engineer who had tamed the largest ship in the galaxy. But tomorrow, new trials would come, and he would meet them, not with fear, but with ingenuity, courage, and a spark of something that even the galaxy's greatest weapons could not match: the human spirit. The eternity drifted silently through the darkness, a colossal giant among the stars. Its hull shimmered faintly as if alive, each panel and light a heartbeat of power and memory. Jalen stood on the bridge, staring at the endless black beyond, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. He had survived battles, outsmarted enemies, and discovered just a fraction of what this living ship could do. Yet he knew the real secrets of the eternity were still hidden. "Show me more," he whispered, placing his hands on the glowing interface. The ship hummed, responding to his command. Corridors opened automatically, leading him to parts of the vessel few beings had ever seen. He entered the archives, a massive room lined with alien technology. Holoscreens floated in midair, displaying data streams, star maps, and symbols that pulsed with light. Some were written in languages long extinct. Others showed technology far beyond human comprehension. Jalen's eyes widened. The ship had traveled further than any living being, survived battles that no fleet could withstand, and collected knowledge from civilizations long forgotten. "Why was I chosen?" he asked aloud, tracing his fingers over a panel. "Humans are unpredictable," the eternity replied, its voice calm but firm. "We are built for strength and strategy. Humans add creativity, intuition, and adaptation. Only a human mind can unlock me fully." Jalen felt a swell of pride. He realized that his years of working with small engines, solving problems quickly and under pressure, had prepared him for this moment. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't brute force, it was ingenuity. And he, a simple mechanic, embodied that potential. He moved deeper into the ship, discovering chambers filled with star maps and interstellar logs. One panel revealed the ship's purpose. It had been built to explore dangerous regions of the galaxy, to test civilizations, and to survive where fleets failed. But something strange caught his attention: notations about a distant, unknown threat. Stars marked with red symbols showed massive fleets moving silently, and warning signals flickered beside them. "What is this?" Jalen asked, alarmed. "A danger far beyond today's battles," the ship whispered. "A force that will challenge the galaxy. It cannot be confronted with weapons alone. Only creativity, intuition, and courage will prevail." Jalen swallowed hard. His first real battle had been terrifying. This was worse. The eternity was preparing him for something far larger than any enemy fleet. Something that might require every skill he had, and more. He explored the engine core next. The massive thrusters pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Control panels allowed him to adjust energy flows, manage shields, and access hidden weapons. Each system seemed designed for human use, responding to instinct as much as commands. The ship was alive, but it also taught him, gently guiding him toward mastery. Hours or maybe days passed in the glow of the eternity. Jalen's hands were no longer trembling. His mind worked faster than ever, anticipating problems, improvising solutions, and learning from the ship's subtle cues. He could feel the giant vessel's personality emerging more clearly. Patient, protective, wise, and yet hungry for a human partner. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Sensors had detected multiple ships approaching faster, deadlier than the previous attackers. Jalen's heart skipped a beat. He had thought the galaxy would wait while he explored, but it never did. The enemy fleet moved like shadows, silent and coordinated, intent on capturing or destroying the eternity. Prepare, the ship warned. This is a test. Use what you have learned. Jalen's mind raced. He knew this was no ordinary battle. The enemy was not just attacking, they were probing, seeking weaknesses, testing the eternity, and him. But he also knew something the enemy did not. He had the ship, and the ship had him. He adjusted shields, rerouted energy to engines, and activated stealth protocols. Then, thinking like a human, he improvised. Using the ship's enormous mass, he created gravitational distortions that pulled the enemy vessels off course. He triggered energy pulses that disabled targeting systems, all while weaving through asteroid clusters and dense space debris. The enemy struggled to adapt. Their precision weapons were no match for the Eternity's living intuition and Jalen's creativity. One by one, enemy ships collided, misfired, or retreated. Jalen felt a rush of exhilaration. His plan was working. Together with the ship, he had turned the galaxy's deadliest hunters into a display of their own mistakes. After the battle, the bridge was silent except for the gentle hum of the ship. Jalen leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. He realized something important. Strength alone could not win these fights. Strategy, imagination, and courage were just as critical. The galaxy had relied on fleets, weapons, and technology. But humans had something different. They adapted. They improvised. They survived. The Eternity spoke softly. You have proven yourself today, but greater tests will come. The galaxy is not yet ready for what approaches. Only you, human, can guide me when the time comes. Jalen nodded. He understood. This ship had chosen him not just to fight, but to lead, to explore, and to awaken potentials no other being could access. He was small compared to the vessel, small compared to the galaxy, but he was enough. He spent the next hours reviewing logs of other civilizations the ship had encountered. Some were peaceful, some violent, some extinct. Each had underestimated the ship and, by extension, any being who sought to understand it. And now, he realized, the galaxy itself might underestimate humans. We have much to learn, Jalen whispered, tracing his fingers over the glowing controls. And you will, the ship replied. I am patient, but the future will test both of us. Your ingenuity will be key. Your courage will be essential. And your heart will guide me when nothing else can. Jalen smiled faintly. He had feared the responsibility at first, but now he understood. The Eternity was more than a ship. It was a living entity, ancient and powerful. Yes, but it needed a human to unlock its true potential, and he was ready to rise to the challenge. As the stars stretched endlessly before him, Jalen felt a spark of excitement mixed with determination. He had survived battles, discovered secrets, and begun to understand the ship's immense power. But the galaxy was vast, and the true threat, one that could test the limits of his courage, intellect, and humanity, was still out there, waiting. The eternity pulsed gently beneath his hands, like a heartbeat in sync with his own. "We are ready," it whispered. And for the first time, Jalen felt the weight of destiny, not as a burden, but as a challenge he could meet. Together, human and ship, they would face whatever came next, and the galaxy would never forget the name of the mechanic who tamed its largest ship. The stars stretched endlessly before the eternity, silent witnesses to a galaxy on the brink. Jalen stood on the bridge, his hands steady now, his heart racing not with fear, but with determination. Weeks of exploration, battles, and discovery had prepared him for this moment. The distant threat the ship had warned him about, a force older and more powerful than any fleet he had faced, was finally approaching. Sensors detected immense ships, far larger and faster than any he had seen. Their weapons glowed ominously, energy fields crackling with destructive potential. Entire fleets moved with a precision that suggested coordination far beyond the galaxy's normal limits. Jalen swallowed hard. This was no ordinary battle. Failure was unthinkable. "We are ready," the ship whispered in his mind. "Trust yourself and trust me." Jalen nodded. He had learned to rely on the eternity in ways he could not have imagined. Its massive engines pulsed beneath him. Its shields gleamed with latent energy, and every system waited for his touch. But he knew something critical. Raw power alone would not win this fight. He would need his humanity, the creativity, the intuition, the unpredictability that no alien fleet could anticipate. The first wave struck. Beams of energy lanced across space, faster than light, slicing through asteroids and vaporizing smaller ships. Jalen felt the eternity respond instantly, shields flaring, engines surging, the ship bending its massive frame with graceful agility. But he needed more than defense. He needed to fight smarter, not just harder. He studied the enemy formation, noticing patterns, slight inconsistencies in timing, angles, and velocity. They were fast and deadly, yes, but predictable in ways only a human mind could exploit. "We're not fighting them head-on," he whispered. "We'll use them against themselves." The eternity hummed in agreement. Jalen rerouted energy, creating gravitational distortions with the ship's massive engines. The enemy ships were thrown off course, their own attacks ricocheting against each other. He guided the eternity through the chaos, weaving between energy beams and asteroids, improvising with every movement. One massive cruiser attempted to flank him, but Jalen had anticipated it. He activated a hidden system, one he had discovered while exploring the archives, a pulse emitter that temporarily disabled the cruiser's engines. The ship spun helplessly, and the eternity delivered a precise energy pulse that knocked it out of formation. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The battle raged across a section of space larger than entire planetary systems. Yet through every attack, every threat, Jalen remained calm. His hands moved instinctively over the controls, his mind predicting the enemy's next moves. The eternity was no longer a machine under his guidance. It was an extension of him, responding to his thoughts, anticipating his decisions, moving as one. But the true test came when the largest vessel of the enemy fleet, a dark and terrifying warship, emerged from the shadows. Its weapons were unlike anything he had seen. Energy beams lanced from its hull, threatening to pierce the eternity's shields. Jalen's stomach tightened, but he refused to panic. He had trained for this moment. He had survived impossible odds before. He took a deep breath. "We do this my way," he said. The eternity pulsed, acknowledging the command. Jalen activated the ship's full energy reserves, bending space around them. He created a series of gravitational eddies that drew the enemy vessel closer, manipulating its trajectory without the enemy even realizing it. Then, with precise timing, he released an energy pulse from the Eternity's core. The blast enveloped the enemy warship, overloading its systems without destroying it. The massive vessel was immobilized, spinning helplessly in space. The remaining enemy ships, seeing their leader disabled, faltered, and retreated. Jalen sank into the captain's chair, exhausted but triumphant. The Eternity hummed gently, a sound like approval, pride, and relief all at once. He had done it. Against impossible odds, a human had commanded the galaxy's largest ship to victory. But the triumph was more than victory in battle. It was proof that humans were capable of ingenuity, adaptability, and courage that no machine, alien, or fleet could predict. The galaxy had doubted humans for centuries, underestimating their creativity and determination. Today, Jalen had shown what humanity could achieve when trusted with the right tools and the right responsibility. After the battle, he explored the ship once more, checking systems, repairing minor damage, and reviewing star maps. He found logs from the Eternity's past explorations, stories of civilizations the ship had encountered, and warnings of threats yet to come. Each file pulsed softly, acknowledging him as the ship's rightful engineer. "You have done well, human. But our journey is only beginning. There are still corners of the galaxy we must explore, secrets that require your mind and your courage. Together, we will face them." Jalen smiled. He no longer felt small. No longer did his hands tremble when he touched the controls. He was confident, capable, and ready to lead the Eternity across the stars. The galaxy had tried to ignore humanity, had doubted its potential, but he was proof that humans could achieve greatness beyond imagination. He walked through the endless corridors of the ship, seeing rooms filled with alien technology, star maps of uncharted systems, and chambers of incredible size and power. The Eternity was alive, yes, but it was also a teacher. It had chosen him to unlock its full potential, and he had done so with courage, intuition, and creativity. That night, he returned to the bridge and gazed at the stars. They stretched endlessly, full of danger, beauty, and opportunity. Jalen knew the galaxy would challenge him again. New fleets, unknown civilizations, and cosmic phenomena would test his ingenuity. But he was ready. He was not just a mechanic anymore. He was the engineer of the largest ship in the galaxy. And he had the mind, hands, and spirit to face anything. "Are you ready?" the ship asked softly. Jalen placed his hands on the controls, feeling the familiar hum beneath his fingers. "Always," he whispered. And for the first time, he understood fully what the Eternity had meant when it had called him its engineer. It was not the ship that needed power. It was the human mind, the human heart, and the human touch. That combination was unstoppable. The galaxy would remember this day not for the size of the ship, nor its ancient technology, but for the human who had tamed it. Jalen leaned back in the captain's chair, a small smile on his face. The stars awaited. Adventures, dangers, and discoveries stretched before him like an endless road. And he would face them all, not just as a mechanic, but as a human who had risen to greatness. The Eternity pulsed softly beneath him, a living testament to what could happen when humanity was trusted, valued, and given the chance. Together, human and ship, they would explore, protect, and inspire. The galaxy had never seen anything like them, and it would never forget. The stars shimmered. The galaxy awaited. And Jalen, the human mechanic, turned legendary engineer, was ready. Following the ship's subtle guidance, he initiated defensive systems, extending energy shields and rerouting power to the engines. The approaching vessel was fast, sleek, and armed with weapons far beyond anything he had ever seen in his small mechanic life. He realized immediately that this was no friendly encounter. "Prepare to maneuver," the ship whispered. Jalen gritted his teeth and followed instinct, feeling the eternity beneath him like a giant creature ready to spring. He twisted levers, tapped panels, and the ship responded, turning, accelerating, and evading the first wave of incoming fire. He was terrified, but strangely exhilarated. The enemy fired again. And for a moment, Jalen thought they would be destroyed. Then the ship pulsed around him, energy flowing in ways he could not explain. Shields strengthened, engines roared, and suddenly, the attacks missed by mere meters. Jalen could feel the eternity adjusting, anticipating, and even learning his reactions. He was no longer just a pilot, he was part of the ship. After several tense minutes, the enemy ship gave up and disappeared into the darkness. Jalen sank into the captain's chair, gasping. His hands were sweaty, his heart racing. He had survived, but more importantly, he realized something incredible: the ship had trusted him, and he had trusted it. Together, they were stronger than he had ever imagined. As the adrenaline faded, Jalen explored more of the ship's hidden systems. He found a room filled with star charts, data logs, and alien technology archives. Each file pulsed softly, as if it knew he was worthy. He learned that the Eternity had seen centuries of battles, explored countless galaxies, and survived enemies that would have destroyed most fleets. Yet it had always remained dormant, waiting for a human mind to awaken its full potential. "Why a human?" Jalen asked aloud. "We adapt differently," the ship replied. "Aliens build with strength, speed, and efficiency. Humans, they build with creativity, intuition, and unpredictability. Only a human mind can unlock me fully."